And we're back.
We are back.
After a while, it's been.
Yeah, it's been about a week or so, no recordings. So I guess we could just chime everybody in on what we're doing with those. So basically what we're doing is we're pre-recording 2 weeks of episodes. So we always have 2 weeks of lead time, just so it's easier, because what we were doing before is we were actually recording the day of publishing. So that was always a hassle. So we just decided to implement this and start, give a 2 week period of where we pause our podcasts and then record for 2 weeks. So we could always have 4 episodes ready of topics, and then just throw those out. And then our fight talks will always be current on Thursdays besides this Thursday. It'll resume next Thursday. Plus, there's not much to talk about UFC right now. It's pretty quiet in the community.
And another reason why we've been kind of late is like our personal lives are starting to catch up with us a little bit.
Exactly.
And, we're just trying to maintain everything. So we're trying to work out a schedule for these podcasts, but we are definitely taking this seriously. Like, don't think we're like getting a little bit lazy here.
We want to keep the same schedule from Monday, Thursday, Sunday. The thing is, we just have to have at least 2 weeks recorded, just so it's not as stressful on us, because we could push out an episode and then we could record the next episodes at a later date, but still get them pushed out on time.
Yeah, our plan is like on a certain day, just spend that entire day just recording, talking, just having conversations, and then we plan to like chop them into segments, but we still kind of working that out. It's going to be like a little experiment, hopefully.
You guys will give us feedback.
Yeah, give us feedback. Let us know what you think.
And what's easier to listen to, and how it helps, just, how tactical it is in your day to listen to certain segments at certain times. But yeah, I think we're going to get it right the first time. I think we're just going to pre-record 2 weeks of episodes. We'll have 4 episodes at any given moment that are pre-recorded. So in case, an emergency comes up, we can still have a product to shoot out. And also, if something happens in, work life or whatever, and we can't record that day, we can record the next day, because we do have that extra episodes already pre-recorded. So you guys are probably were wondering probably what we were doing for the last week. So now you know, and it's time to just jump right into the topic today. And today we're going to discuss gun laws.
Yeah, just everything guns, seriously, like what's going on, like with all these shootings, and then people like debating on over like why we should keep guns, and then like all these companies taking stands all of a sudden,
And where we stand on it. Ed and I might have totally different views and opinions on this. We might have similar views and opinions on it. We have talked about it before, and we're just going to give you our takes on it, and then you guys can also always engage like always, and leave your views and whatever you think. So it's a free podcast, so you guys are more than welcome to comment on that.
Yeah, and disagree to agree, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So all right, so let's jump into it. So one thing that I want to comment on quickly about was the shooting that happened in Florida.
Yeah, the Parkland
shooting recently. And we live in Florida. So, yeah. I mean, it struck close to home. My family lives in Fort Lauderdale, and they live about 15 minutes from the actual school. I'm happy it wasn't my sister's school, but it sucks that it did happen, and it was someone's family, sibling, cousin's school.
Like, yeah, it's a tragedy what happened. Like, it shouldn't have happened. On top of that there was many warnings about this kid's behavior, like.
Yeah, there
definitely was people at fault. Nobody took it seriously.
So.
And I just want to bring up a little example. Like, back at the school I went to, in my high school, this kid, I don't know if he joked about it or anything, but when he talked, he told his friends. Didn't say anything about social media or anything. He went to his friends and told them not to show up to the school next day. But his friends were just like, yeah, no. So they just told everybody else. And sooner or later, all the people at the school, including some teachers, teamed up together, told officials. He was arrested. That's it. And they took that seriously.
Did they find anything on him, or?
No, they didn't, but they took it seriously. And that's what I think, it
wasn't like these warnings that people get, and they're like open-handed threats, and they just think that, this person has nothing that they're going to do, and then they end up doing something. So they took it seriously, and it was a precaution, and nothing happened because of it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to look at the Parkland situation, that they were warned about it beforehand, but they didn't take it seriously.
So following up,
It probably could have been prevented. It's more likely could have been prevented, but you know,
right. So following up on these possible leads that people are giving towards people, right?
yeah,
Kind of like the woman who shut up the YouTube headquarters.
yeah. But I don't think there was much of a warning on that.
Well, her father actually called the police.
Oh,
yeah, her father
I didn't
warned
know that.
Yeah, her father warned the police that she might be doing something of that nature and that she needed to be Baker acted basically because he was worried for people. And then she ended up going, they didn't take it seriously. It wasn't enough to Baker act her, just his word alone. And she ended up going and doing that.
But the thing about the Parkland is that a lot of people said about it. Like everybody informed the police,
Right.
students, I think a few teachers, some family members, people of the community were aware of this kid's behavior and they informed the police and still nothing happened. Like how
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that we don't investigate these claims?
either somebody doesn't want to do their job. And honestly, I think that's just it.
Just someone not doing the job?
Like what else? Like you've been given so many warnings, so many people are worried about this kid's behavior. How is it that not enough to take action?
How many warnings and tips like that do you think we get on a daily basis? A lot. What do you think?
I think a lot.
Unheard of and things that don't make the news and
Yeah.
whatnot. A lot.
I mean,
Do you think that we might not have the manpower to cover all these tips? Maybe that might be a possibility. Maybe we need to hire more or create a new job field to investigate these claims.
there are private investigators.
What about something about, like a little more official? Something that's state documented, someone that is employed by taxpayers, basically,
Yeah,
that's more legitimate, that doesn't have to be employed by people.
true.
Maybe it's just that we don't have enough people to cover all these tips, and then the ones that seem more obvious aren't the ones that are really the threat because we're hitting the wrong ones or whatnot. That might be a possibility.
Yeah, but if I was like in charge of making the call, I probably would have gone for it. It's like, you know what? A lot of people are giving us these warnings. Let's just see what's up.
Right.
Let's finally do it. Just forget it.
There should be maybe an incentive program at school if they think that someone might be at risk of doing a crime like that, or if someone has said something and they've overheard it, that they can go to anonymously. And I'm sure there is, but there should be more of a some propaganda spread about that throughout the schools, throughout morning announcements or whatnot, letting kids know that, hey, if you do hear something of this nature or someone making these threats, to please come to your local sheriff, who's at the schools, because most schools have deputies now, and let them know of that so they can go ahead and assess the situation and control it before something gets out of hand. Because the last thing we need is people knowing about it beforehand and talking about it and then nothing being done to prevent it. Because that's just a tragedy. It's a tragedy in itself, but it's a tragedy that it was foreseen.
Yeah.
And it was just left at his will.
Yeah, it is will. And then now, not to mention that this is a rare case where he survived, didn't take himself out. Like most of the time where there's school
They
shootings.
usually killed themselves.
Yeah, they usually kill themselves in the end. But this kid, he survived. He didn't kill himself. They arrested him. I'm surprised that they didn't open fire on him immediately after what he was doing.
Yeah, that's really surprising. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I remember you telling me a while back that cops aren't obligated to what did you say again?
Yeah, so this goes into my personal opinion of police officers in schools. I'm going to jump on that in about 2 seconds. I was just going to finish up one thing. Is that I know for whenever he actually escaped the school, the shooter did, he wasn't caught at the school. He actually got out in a group while they were being taken out by police officers, and he, I believe, took a Uber, to some random part in the town, and then he got caught somewhere else, on some random lawn or something like that. But yeah, so basically jumping on to, I don't think that police belong in schools, and hear me out on this. They definitely have their place in schools for now, but I believe there's other places that they are suited, like on the streets, doing their jobs. And I understand how it's important for them to be in schools, and it's part of the taxpayers' money in a public school, which is also part of the taxpayers' money. Yeah, don't get me wrong there, but just hear me out. So I believe that maybe, just maybe, schools should employ private security forces that are trained to handle scenarios such as a school shooter, because police necessarily aren't trained to handle that situation. Now, they are trained to handle armed suspects, yes, and they are trained to make quick, fast-paced decisions that are proper decisions while under stress. Yes, I definitely understand that and I agree, but most police officers lack the tactical response that private security could have, such as, because most private security firms have special operators, such as people who were in the military for X amount of time, or people who were in special forces for X amount of time. And yeah, I know some police officers were part of military in their past careers, or they were part of something of that nature, but most military people are private contractors now. And I believe that we should have them employed. One, because that opens up a couple of things, job opportunities for veterans. Two, it puts police officers back on the streets and gets them back on the beat doing what they're really good at doing, and that's getting people on, from selling drugs on the streets, whether it's doing domestic violence and whatnot. And it's just not one less person sitting behind a desk at a school. Now, don't get me wrong, they could be good in situations, and not all cops lack this tactical training, but maybe there should be a training program for officers and that are stationed at schools, and that also is a way to go about it. I just personally believe that it'd be killing two birds with one stone with having a private security force in a school that are armed, and you could have multiple of them, maybe 3 to 4, and they are paid for by the state and employed by the state as contractors. That's my opinion.
You see, well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think the problem with that is that public schools, they already get crap funding as it is.
They do. That's why it's got to go through the state.
So that's why I'm just like, that's not a bad idea. It's still, it could be a bit controversial.
It could be, definitely, just like teachers carrying firearms.
But, at the same time, it's just, who's going to fund it and why. Like, there's probably some teachers going to be more complaining about they're giving more money to these private firms and the school itself, so I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think it's going to need a little more time to think about and some execution. And on top of that, the acceptance of it is also going to be kind of a big issue.
Right now, we need ideas to stop instances like this from happening. And this is the time to kind of throw everything out there to see what could possibly prevent this. And I think one of those that could possibly prevent this, and it is controversial, obviously, and kids don't, some children and their parents don't like this, but arming teachers. Now, I wish that wasn't the case, that we had to arm certain teachers, but there are some states that are already taking arms for their faculty, and there's teachers that are being armed, and they have to pass a certain tactical training class in how to use that firearm in a defensive scenario, while having students.
But then here
present.
Comes to the question: are those teachers fit for firearms? There's some teachers who aren't even fit to teach.
Exactly, and
so that's why I'm just like.
Apparently, part of that test, it does have a psychological background screening done by it's either by the school board, or it's done by another third party, one of the two. But I believe that from what I heard, there was a psychological background that went behind that, and that's actually really easy. Like, okay,
it could be easily faked. It could be easily,
people can lie.
Yeah,
and
that's why it depends. Like, those questions, it should be a little bit more hard-hitting, more tricky to answer. Like, if someone is actually stumbling on trying to ask that question, then you can press on to like, why is it kind of hard to ask, if you answer that. That's why it's just like, it shouldn't be just some basic questions like, if this guy came in and started threatening this kid, would you pull the gun on him? Like, well, anybody can say yes, obviously, but then it should be like a little bit more intricate, more complicated question. Like it actually takes the time for the teacher to sit down and think about it, you know?
Someone who is a sociopath or someone who is a psychopath uh, have very strong characteristic tendencies to be extremely charming, and they can be social chameleons, and they can blend in with society and be totally normal but have these tendencies to want to do outrageous things.
You know, famous example, Ted Bundy.
Yeah, Ted Bundy.
Famous example right there.
Yeah, if you put somebody now, if you did have a psychologist, they would probably be able to possibly identify a psychopath, but it's very hard when the psychopath does not want to be found out. They can make themselves seem totally normal, avoid all these certain words that they would use. They use total normal people words. They're smart, extremely smart. They just lack the empathy towards people. Now, psychopaths, don't get me wrong, they are not all killers and whatnot. Some of the world's smartest people are considered or were thought to have been psychopaths. But let's stay on topic here. I think that there are some easy implementations that could fix a lot of these problems that we're having. And I wanted to start with one on the topic, and we'll go back and forth on this, was stricter gun laws. So people are saying stricter gun laws, and obviously that gets people who are firearms owners and lovers and activists kind of saying, oh, well, am I not going to be able to purchase firearms anymore? And we don't want that to be the case, because let's remember here, our Second Amendment is one of the most important things that we have and we hold, because that makes us different from every other country in the world. You know, we founded that so that we can actually save ourselves from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that includes our government, our own people. That also includes anyone who wants to attack us. That's why nobody wants to have war on American soil. That's because we are most of the American population is armed. I believe it's either 49 or over 50% of the American population is armed. So nobody, that's the highest statistics, I think, in the world. And also it shows that we have lower crime rates than most of the world as well because of that. So that goes hand in hand. Now, on stricter gun laws, I think that we should only put one implementation in for stricter gun laws, and that's it. I think one of those things should be obviously psychological background tests, but ran by the state. Now, this should be implemented once a year. Now, not a full psychological background, and you have to sit in a room and answer questions and take a test. Well, none of that shit. Do that once, right? And then if you're deemed fit, you will be given a firearm. If for some reason that they find in your background that you might have had a Baker acting, or you've ever had anything of that nature, self-harm, if you've ever been into a mental institution and they find out about that, or if you've ever had an arrest for domestic violence or whatnot, then yeah, if that ever comes up during this process, then you will automatically be forfeiting that right to be able to own a firearm. And you will also be possibly, if you're knowingly going into this with all these issues going on, you could be charged for another crime additionally for trying to get a firearm, possibly. So I'm thinking here that maybe if we do these steps, so you apply to get a firearm, right? Okay, your next step is you go to see a psychological evaluator. Okay, that's done. You pass. Okay, the psychological evaluator goes and he checks a system. Okay, it's called a NICS system, and I think it's NICX or NIXC system, and that is a big problem. And I'll talk about that in a second. You pass that, you're not in that, you don't have any sort of mental illness background, you have a clean record, no domestic violences or whatnot, then you move on and you go to a pistol qualification training. After you complete your pistol qualification training, then you're able to purchase and apply for a handgun. And the application process isn't slow. It's not like, oh, it's still going to be like the 3-day wait if you do not have your concealed carry permit. If you do have your concealed carry permit, you'll receive your pistol or rifle or shotgun immediately, because currently, if you don't have a concealed carry permit, then you have to wait 3 days. So that will be the process you would have to go through to get that concealed carry permit. And everybody with that concealed carry permit license what it will tell officers is that, 1, they are mentally stable. 2, they do not have a felony background, or they are a law-abiding citizen. And that'll put a lot of ease on officers. So everyone who is going to be a gun owner should be pushed to get this concealed carry license. 1, that'll make the population more armed. 2, it could stop a lot of these other things from happening, because a lot of people who are gun owners aren't concealed carry ready. They just own it to protect their house or whatnot.
Or for sport.
Or for sport, right. So I think that this could easily be amended if the proper steps were taken. Now, the only way these proper steps could be taken is, I was just talking about this NICS system, and what happens with that is, this system has everybody who should not own a firearm in it. People who are have multiple personality disorders, people who are psychotic, schizophrenic, stuff like that, people who have mental disabilities or mental issues should not be able to acquire a firearm. People who have felonies, people who have domestic violences. This system holds all those people and their backgrounds. Now, if you have, or also, what is it? Discharged from the military. If you're dishonorably discharged from the military, you can't own a firearm, or you can't vote, or not. Because that's on there. I believe you might not be able to vote. I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you're dishonorably discharged, then you can't own a firearm. So basically, it has all these people in that system, the NICS system. And people who do get this, dishonorable discharge, or they get, maybe they go see a psychological evaluation, they get Baker acted or whatnot, a lot of the times they're not put into that NICS system. So when people like that go to apply for a firearm, they're not popping up and they're getting passed. They're getting cleared. That's why the school shooter in Parkland had a firearm. Because he was passed. You know why? Because he wasn't in this system. So it's flawed, obviously.
Yeah, it's just showing that it's a flawed system.
It's a flawed system.
People agree.
And it's not the gun owners. It's not the NRA. It's not activists. It's none of that shit.
It's not whoever sold it either.
Yeah, it's not whoever sold it to the person, because that could also be amended too. Doing private sales could be amended. I think that could help a lot of issues out too. But that's for later down the discussion today. But back onto this topic now, is he wasn't in that system. So who was to know if he was in his sane mind and just wanted to get an AR for sport, an AR for maybe hunting? I know people who use it for hunting, people who just do it for, like I said, sport, shooting, marksmanship.
Yeah.
Very common trade that people like to practice in. So, or even home defense. He could have had his own apartment. I had my own apartment at 18. So that gets me to the point of just saying the system's flawed, and some people who should be held accountable for that are some psychiatrists, are the military, are law enforcement agencies that push these paperwork through for people who have domestic batteries and whatnot, and have violent criminal pasts, and can show that via paperwork, because they're not in the system. There's no way they could be detected. So therefore, when they go to apply for this pistol or whatever they apply for, they're accepted because they're not in this system. So if someone were to be held accountable, and I'm not saying that the blood of the people from Parkland or Sandy Hook or any of that are on the hands of psychiatrists or DCF agents or agencies or anything like that. But what I am saying is that they can take a little bit of responsibility for not putting them in the system. Plus the only reason why people don't get put in the system is that it's not a federal law that people need to get put into the system once they are declared to be kind of unfit, or they do get this they are Baker acted, or they are considered to be possible self-harm or harm others, or they are domestic violence, or they are dishonorable discharge, or the list of other things that could be that cause them to be unstable and that should not have a firearm. So that needs to be a federal law, that anyone who gets put into a place like that, a facility for mental rehabilitation health, they need to be put in that NIC system. So whenever they go to apply, it's a no-go. It's a decline. Sorry, sir. Sorry, ma'am. You cannot get a firearm. It doesn't say why. You can contact this number and find out why. And then they contact it and they say, oh, well, I was a kid and I lashed out at my dad and I threw a chair at him. So they considered that maybe domestic violence or whatever, with a deadly weapon possibly if, some shit went down like that. And they could, go through a mental evaluation check. They can get rechecked if it was an X. It has to be like, let's say 10 years ago or something like that, minor to adult. That can easily be amended, but you need to be reevaluated. And guess what? The person who's reevaluating you will have all this paperwork, documentation, whatnot. They'll ask you about the scenario, what happened, and they'll deem you fit, yay or nay, and then they'll either push you through or you'll get a decline in a few weeks. And once you're declined, then you're no longer eligible to own. That's how I think it should be. I think if you get a mark whenever you're a juvenile or whatnot, you grow up, you find out that mark negatively affects you and you can't own a firearm, you're like, I'm a good citizen. I want to own a firearm. And there might be cases where that's true, where it was just kids lash out all the time, do stupid shit, throw shit, say shit, oh, I fucking hate you, I'm going to kill you. Kids say shit like that all the time and don't mean it. So they find out, hey, I can't own a firearm. I said some shit when I was a kid, and I remember I got arrested, and the cop took me to a facility because I said I wanted to kill myself, or I wish I was dead, or something like that, and I was Baker acted. So that's why I can't get a firearm now, and I'm 25. That happened when I was 13. So they can say, okay, well, you'll go get tested. You'll go to a mental background check, and if they deem you fit, then we'll push you through. You can take your tests and whatnot. You can get a firearm, become proficient, and then you can apply for your license and purchase. I think you should also need a concealed carry license to purchase a firearm. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you, like I said, are one, not a felon. Two, that you're capable and you have the skills to handle a firearm, taking a class. And then you can purchase and get your firearm in the same day purchase. All these 3-day waits for people who have never done like any crimes, but their wife maybe cheated on them, so they go and buy a gun. They wait the cool down period. They call it the cool down period because whenever you're mad and you go to buy a firearm and you're probably gonna kill someone with it, so it's a 3-day cool down period to see if maybe you chill out and become rational. If still not, you can still go pick up your firearm in 3 days and go kill the fucking lady that you're trying to hurt, or the guy who she was sleeping with, or maybe your kid. I don't know how crazy people think, but the 3-day wait period is not going to do anything. And also, if someone's going to do something, we've discussed this before, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
If someone's
like in the London stabbings right now.
Yeah, the stabbings in London, people are taking trucks and running into crowds of people. Bombings at concerts. Whose concert was that? Selena Gomez's concert that was bombed, or someone's
Ariana
concert?
Grande, I think.
Yeah, Ariana Grande. Her concert was bombed. See what I'm saying? Is like, shit gets hectic, man.
It does.
And what's scarier, a gun or a bomb? Like, they're both pretty fucking scary. It's pretty bad.
But a bomb will annihilate.
Yeah, if you place that shit right, there's no telling, and you
The
can't.
damage will
and it's
be
instant. It's instant.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying a rifle isn't, because it is, but I'm just saying I'd rather go up against a rifle than a bomb, quite possibly. And that's not taking any away from the Las Vegas shooting, because he was a legal owner. He had a concealed carry license. He was a law-abiding firearm owner. But that also goes into what I said earlier. I think people need to be reevaluated once a year. And that doesn't mean a whole psychologist check, because that would just take way too long. But I think their name should be ran through the NICS system, or there should be an immediate sort of algorithm to where when someone gets a charge of some sort, or a mental or are put into a mental institution, that it automatically feeds the NICS system, and their firearms license are revoked instantly. So if I got a firearm license tomorrow, I already have one, but let's just say I got one tomorrow, right? I'm a new firearm owner, and then I end up going to jail for beating the shit out of my wife 4 days later, then that charge is automatically linked to the NICS system, and my firearms license is automatically revoked, and somebody from the state with a sheriff's officer will come to take away my license and my firearm. It would have to be my firearm would have to be seized to the police, and my license revoked. I think that's how it should be, because there'd be a lot less guns on the street. But if someone's gonna do something illegal or hurt somebody, they're gonna do it. But let's try to make it a little bit harder for them to do it. I agree. Like, we can make it harder for people to do things. But if someone's that fucking gone, that far gone, and they have the mindset that they're gonna go and shoot at a crowd of people listening to a concert, or they're gonna go kill a bunch of kids who are studying, or they're gonna go shoot up people who are praying in a church, you can't stop those people, man. Like, what's to stop someone from getting a bunch of Molotov cocktails and just lighting those up and throwing them at buildings? Right. Or just, like, setting them on fire? You know, there's serial arsonists. There's so many people out there that just have these weird psychological fantasies, and they're just...
Some guys will probably just do bare hands. After that, what are you going to do? Ban bare hands?
They're like, oh, like, I have a fetish where, like... Not a fetish, but they're like, I have a fucking, like, desire to, like, choke the life out of somebody. How are you going to stop them? They become serial killers. Like, the Golden State Killer was just caught recently.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah, after how many years? Like 50 years?
Yeah.
Some crazy number like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was killing women in the 70s. And he was, like, just recently caught. That's insane. And hats off to them for keeping that investigation open and getting the guy. You know, he was 78. He could have easily decided to go at it again. You know? And
yeah, definitely.
It's one good thing that guy's off the fucking streets, but it's so that these are my views, and I'm sorry I'm taking up all the time.
I mean, you kind of took everything. You took the words out of my mouth. I agree with everything you've said. A mental background check would be nice. A reevaluation on people who own
yearly.
Yearly. I mean, that could be kind of cheated though. Like,
it could. Like, that's why I was like, there needs to be an algorithm.
Yeah,
because I thought about it.
The NICS system should be revised, looked over again.
Right, and I thought about it. I was like, there should definitely be an algorithm to where as soon as somebody gets a charge that they are not allowed to own a firearm, let alone get a concealed weapons permit, then that algorithm is immediately shot to the NICS system. That NICS system shoots over to the ATF, which is the alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. Those people they obviously, it's in the name. They come to your house and they seize your firearm and license. They let you know that it is revoked, and they get basically a warrant to come into the house so that they could actually, you don't need to give them permission. So you can come into the house and you
give
can
them a
seize
notice.
it.
Give them a notice that you got like this amount of days to turn the stuff in. I meant. All right, we'll just come and pick it up. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that would be good, but fuck it, I wouldn't give them any lead time.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah, I would just forward it to the ATF. So the charge is given. It goes to the NICS system. NICS system forwards it to the ATF. The local ATF comes to your place of residence and takes away your firearm and says that, yeah, you're no longer able to own firearms. You committed this or that, and yeah, so hand over the firearm.
Yeah,
you know, and hand over the license. It's revoked as of now, as of yesterday or whatever. So that would be really good. You're getting the firearms out of people's hands.
That could also cause some problems as well. Like
Oh,
there's some,
yeah,
there's some
definitely.
people who would probably fight for that stuff. You know?
Oh, of course.
That would also fall into the whole Second Amendment thing. So that's why
There's
it
people
really
fighting.
needs to be looked into. Really needs to all these kind of scenarios need to be played out and stuff like that.
I mean, there's people fighting for Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
The after we talked about it today, you know, he was
Yeah, he was recently
acquitted
found-
again. I mean, not acquitted. He's found guilty
on all 3 charges.
on his second trial, on
And
his
then
retrial.
there are people who thinks he deserves it, and there are people who thinks that who's innocent. Like he's innocent. Like how old is he now? Like in his 80s, I think.
Oh man, that guy's about 80.
Yeah, there are people who are like sympathizing with him, and then there are people just like they're glad he's off the street. You know, obviously, like in my personal opinion, I think he did it.
Yeah,
he even admit it.
I mean, if he admitted it. I didn't hear him admit it, but since you told me that you heard him admit it, right?
Yeah, there's like
Videos out there, so I'm just taking your word for it. If he said that, yeah, he sexually penetrated a woman, then I definitely am like, yeah, then obviously he's fucking guilty. But like I'm saying, man, people are fighting for this guy who did this, and but there's always gonna be someone fighting because it's not perfect. But you know
Right.
what? In my eyes, this is basically as perfect as we can get it to satisfy both ends of the spectrum, and we're meeting in the middle, so that we're all a little less tensioned.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are illegally owning firearms, if you are a law-abiding citizen who owns a firearm, you should not have any issues with this policy that I'm like hoping would be the best implementation of it. You know, I believe that you would be okay with it because lives could be saved because of it, and if you have patience and whatnot. But that's the people you're going to get on the nerves of. You're going to get on the nerves of gun owners who are like, oh, America, you know, this is like, I want to, like, wild, wild west, gun toting.
Exactly.
You know, you're going to get on there. But you know what, man? It's a new era. They're going to have to adapt, just like we all have to adapt. And the times have changed. So I think, and I know in my heart, that I think this is the right way to go. So I hope to see something go towards that area. What I would hate to see is gun owners lose rights and have a lot stricter gun laws, so you can only buy 2 guns a year, something crazy like that, man. I would hate to see that.
Also, there needs to be more of an understanding on the Second Amendment, because a lot of people don't understand what the Second Amendment is really there for. A lot of people just think that it's just there that we can just have guns because we can have guns. No, the real reason there is to help protect us from the government, our government, if
Enemies,
it's
foreign and
enemy.
domestic.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's there for. You know, it's not there to so we can just have it.
Right. It's not there so we can just say, hey, man, I got a gun. Like, I'm going to fucking,
It's there to protect ourselves. It's there to, if one day a foreign country just invades us and,
They're fucked. Dude, no foreign country would invade us because that's the one thing. They don't want to bring it to soil. And the only time we've ever gotten attacked was either by our own people or during 9/11. You know, we either have these lone wolf terrorists, and they're technically not even terrorists, because I don't even want to get into that, because terrorists have a political agenda. That's why these school shooters are not classified as terrorists, if people were always wondering that, even though they cause terror. Terrorists,
technically, that's a terrorist right there. Someone who's just constantly terrorizing somebody. That's a terrorist. But these
in
days, it's
legal definition of terrorist is somebody who is willing to cause harm for political gain. That is what a terrorist is considered.
Yeah, but
yeah.
it should be more generalized.
Yeah,
but
it could be more generalized, but
we can
yeah,
thank the news for that.
Definitely. But basically, the only time we've ever been attacked was during 9/11, and if the only other attacks we have are from inside the United States. You know why? Because these people who are inside the United States are free to do what they want. It just shows how free you are in the United States. You're free enough to attack your own country.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows how free you are, and the frequency of which it happens might make people think, are we too free? And I don't think that that's the case. I just think that freedom is just too much for some people to handle.
Oh, yeah.
The freedom to do anything. And
it's a lot of trust that you're putting on
into somebody. Right. Because I have a firearm. I've owned assault rifles, aka assault rifles. I don't even agree with the term on that, because I can hold three pistol mags on me
Right.
and have more rounds than a rifle. I mean, my pistol holds 16 rounds, 15 in the magazine, one in the chamber. So I mean, if someone was going to cause havoc with the pistol, they could definitely do that, and it's more concealable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's semi-automatic, just like a rifle would be. Smaller caliber, but what if someone was rolling around with the 45? You know, it's still going to not be a good day for wherever they go. And, man, all I know is that I would just hate to see gun owners and law-abiding citizens get stripped of their firearms, or not even just stripped, but just make it harder for them to own, not being able to carry them around as much.
Just because of the fears of some other people who don't understand how the Second Amendment works and how are these like gun laws are working.
And the facts behind the statistics that
Exactly.
are going on. I mean, I believe it's somewhere like 80 to 90% of all gun-related crimes are committed with pistols. So what are we going to do? What's the real problem? Should we ban handguns or rifles? Because only, I think 1% or a little over 1%, like 1.25% of crimes are committed with a assault rifle, quote unquote assault rifle.
Yeah, and look at Compton. Has the harshest gun laws in the entire states, and still has like
Highest crime rates.
exactly.
Chicago, some worst crime rates, and they ban guns.
Yeah, and
But
look
there's
what
still
happened.
guns there. There's still guns there galore because people are gonna do what they have to do, and they're gonna get guns however they
You
have to
think they're gonna
them.
get the guns in Chicago? No, they'll just leave Chicago and come back.
Yeah,
Like,
man,
come
you
on.
export, man. You can go to a different state.
Like, you're not stopping anybody from like when you ban guns. You're not stopping anybody. That's what people don't understand.
It's a big mess.
It's a fear, but they're not rationalizing. And
right. I mean, so to kind of condense everything down, we have the NICS system now. If for some reason you missed what that was, the NICS system is where people who have crimes not allowing them to own firearms or get a concealed weapons permit, their names and socials are put into that system, and whenever they apply to get a firearm, they are denied. So the problem with that is most people are not put into that system. So that's one gripe that we have, that people need to be put into that system more by psychiatrists who are treating patients who are at risk, military who have dishonorable discharges and who are at risk. Anyone who's at risk, ex-deputies, maybe even people who have criminal backgrounds such as domestic violence, any sort of abuse, animal abuse, things of that nature. So that's one gripe that we have. So that's a point right there. They need to fix that system.
Yeah.
So that the machine can start working more properly and get
the gears working.
gears working, because that's like a spark plug that's out and it needs to be changed. That's one big thing. Another thing is securities in schools. We didn't talk about that. Now, how do you feel about armed teachers or armed staff members in schools? How do you feel about that? Because we already talked about hiring a private security firm to replace police officers in school.
Well, let me put it this way. If I was a teacher and like the fear of school shootings are definitely coming, I definitely would try to go and get my like guns and like my gun license and then a concealed permit, making sure all that. But I wouldn't say anything. I just keep it to myself. So if the day, if it were to happen and I was a teacher and I had my gun on me, on my person, and I kept quiet about it, didn't let anybody know, and the shooter decides to roll up and just start shooting everybody, I would definitely take my pistol out and just start protecting myself and everybody around me.
Yeah.
And I would just gladly lose my job over it too, to protect the lives of everyone else.
And go to jail. Possibly even go to jail. I mean, there was a teacher when I was in high school, and I overheard this conversation when I was at my desk, and they were talking about we were talking about school shooters, because there was a school shooting, there was something like that had happened nearby, or there was a possibility of it was either that or like a bomb, or someone was a bomb threat nearby, and one of the teachers was talking to an assistant teacher, and I was pretty close to the desk, and they're just like, one of the teachers was like, yeah, he's like, I have a handgun in my car. He's like, I would carry it. He's like, I would have one in school, but obviously that's a no-go. And I was like, damn, I was like, that's kind of cool that he owns a pistol or whatever he has. I was like, I wish he kind of had it in here just in case. So I guess I had a preconceived notion of that when I was younger, and I had a lot of time to think about it. And whenever this possibility of teachers being able to carry in schools was brought up, I said, that might not be too bad, especially if they're obviously background checked, mental check, and taught how to use a firearm in a tactical situation. Then yeah.
And I think the best case is just like, if you do have a weapon on you, and it's concealed, keep it concealed. Don't even wave it around like it's some trophy or anything. Just keep it to yourself. So the day like some poor fool decide to shoot up the school, he's going to be pointed out with 10 more guns.
And I think in this program that's going on around a few states, that the only people who are aware of who are carrying the firearms are law enforcement in the school, and other teachers don't even know the teachers that are carrying.
I think that should also be a thing as well.
Like them not knowing what teachers are carrying, so it's kind of a secret.
Yeah.
So like some students can't maybe catch wind of it and not ambush this class, but ambush another class and say, oh, Mr. Smith is concealed carrying, so I'm going to ambush Mr. Zenshu or whatever. You know what I mean? Some new teacher or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, man, there's a lot of things wrong, but there's a lot of things that we have right.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that we have going is that we know that there's an issue. And no one's denying that. The NRA is not denying that. Marco Rubio is not denying that, And that's whenever those kids from the Florida shooting, from the Parkland shooting, whenever they were doing that interview in Fort Lauderdale with survivors talking to the NRA, Heather, I forget her name, Heather something, talking to her, they were trying to be respectful, but she was getting bombarded really hard.
Yeah, and honestly, again, and that's going back to the whole, they don't understand the Second Amendment. Like those kids, as much as I feel bad for them and what happens to them, they don't understand the purpose of the Second Amendment. They don't understand why, it's there.
And you know what? No one has more of a right. Let me put this out there. Nobody has more of a right to talk about firearms and express their feelings about them because these kids were shot at. No one has more of a right to go out there and say, hey, I think that guns are bad because guess what? I saw my friend get shot and killed. That's totally a rational thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I saw you killed by a gun, I might have a fucking different outlook. But probably not, because I'm not saying that I'm a rational thinker, but I am rational, and I'm not saying that their thinking is irrational, but I'm a practical thinker. And yes, their friends may have been killed by firearms, but guarantee you more lives have ever been saved by firearms. There's
look up on YouTube. There's plenty of examples of like home invasions,
tons.
Like guys trying to do home invasions go wrong for them because their homeowners had weapons on them,
firearms,
and protected themselves.
Right. But there's a lot of things going on that could be fixed, and there's a lot of things going on that could be tweaked or adjusted in some way. And I definitely agree. There are some things wrong, and we try to talk about what some of those things are that could be fixed. And maybe we touched on some of the points that you guys haven't heard of on any other podcasts or forums or whatnot. But that's just my opinion and Ed's opinion on.
Yeah, that's our opinions.
Yeah, on what's going on in the world today with firearms. But I agree in the Second Amendment, and I'm never going to give up my right to bear arms, and I'm never going to put my right to bear arms in jeopardy by committing a crime or
just to
like
put
that.
this out there, I don't have a firearm, but I definitely want to look into getting one day. And definitely, after like everything I see, everything I hear, I definitely want to protect myself and my loved ones as well.
There's things that you don't see going on. There's news stories that don't make headlines. I was watching, you seen that show Live PD?
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys who don't know what Live PD is, it's basically a TV show that's filmed in real time, and it's basically cops but filmed in real time. And there was a pre-recorded episode while they were on a season break, I guess, and they were talking about how they were trying to catch a serial killer in Florida. And keep in mind, we live in Florida and the serial killer was in Tampa. Okay. And the weird thing is I never heard about that on any media.
Never hear
over
about
here.
that.
And Tampa's only what, like 130, 40 miles away, something like that. I don't know. Something like that. So I was just like, wow, I haven't heard about that. We hear about serial killers in other states, but we don't hear about any here. That's kind of weird. So this guy
And this is coming from Florida, which is known for having like a very, very relaxed media.
And you know how he was killing people?
How?
He was rolling up in the streets at night, running behind people and shooting them with what? A pistol, not in a quote unquote assault rifle, with a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And he still hasn't been caught. To what I know, he still hasn't been caught. And I'm just like, wow, man, I'm so happy that I carry, because not only like if he ran up on you in the street, you might not have enough time to react, but damn, at least I have a chance to fucking, fire back if I have to. I'm not going to go down without a fight. But this guy's going around the streets killing people, shooting them with pistols and just running around. It's weird. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's a lot.
There's a lot of messed up people out there.
It's a mess. And we got to be able to weed those people out.
And the fact is that people want to take away that protection.
Yeah.
Think about that. You're going to be in the street. Oh, you think you banned firearms. So you just banned the people who are eligible to get it.
My outlook on this is the most simple way to take it in, to understand my view, is if you disarm law-abiding citizens, then what you are doing is giving firearms to criminals who are going to seek other means to obtain firearms to do harm.
Exactly, the black market.
Yeah.
Not to mention that we live right next to Mexico, and then we also live right next to Canada.
Right. And
so, that's already two ways. And I'm not trying to say that, those two countries are responsible of bringing those weapons in here, but I'm just trying to say that we'll find a way. They'll find a way to get their hands on it.
They're going to find a way to get their hands on it, and they're going to cause harm to us law-abiding citizens. Home invasions, whatnot. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie. Have you seen the movie Law Abiding Citizen?
No.
So there's
heard about it.
There's an opening scene to that movie, and it's heart-wrenching. So a little girl makes her dad a bracelet saying "Daddy" on it, and there's a lot of affection going on. And I guess they ordered takeout or something like that, and they're waiting for it to come. And then all of a sudden, the guy goes to answer the door, and he's hit in the face, and they're tied up and bound. The daughter is still downstairs. She doesn't hear anything going on. And the husband is stabbed in the abdominal region. And then the wife is actually raped in front of the husband, or it's let out to be that she's about to be raped in front of the husband. And then the daughter comes out, and the guy ends up zipping up his pants. He's like, oh, I'm going to go with them. I like kids. Like, kids love me. And so the dad's freaking out. And he's stabbed, so he's freaking out to the point where like he loses consciousness because his blood pressure is so high and he's losing blood. He just passes out, and then when he wakes up, he's in a court like case. He's talking to a lawyer or whatever. It skips everything, and then he's basically his wife and daughter are dead. And that shit like that happens.
Yeah.
And the one thing that gets me going is that people don't believe it unless they see it. I watch it every day on YouTube. There's a channel called Active Self-Protection Lessons, and I urge you all to go watch that. He will introduce you to evil in this world that you'd never known existed in your own country. In the United States, he has videos from Brazil, Guatemala, Venezuela. A lot of these are in the United States, though.
Yeah.
A lot of these shootings.
We don't see that because you have the news to thank for, because they rather have a fill just something they want people to see. They want to see
agenda. It all goes back to the agenda. I definitely urge you guys to go watch them. It's called Active Self-Protection Lesson, and it's on YouTube. Just look that up, and you'll learn. Not only will you learn how to defend yourself in certain encounters, and when to use your handgun or when to employ deadly force and stuff like that, but you'll just see how scary the world really is. And it's not about being scared of your surroundings, but it's about being aware of your surroundings. You need situational awareness to stay safe and keep your loved ones safe around you. Like personally, like, I hope me owning a firearm, since you don't own one, makes you feel safer. You know, because if someone decides to mug you or me one day when we're out, you know, I'm gonna give them, I'm gonna try to do, you know, use verbal judo, and that's one thing that this act of self-protection has taught me. You know, always give them what they want. Don't fight for them. Wait until you have the opportunity to defend yourself. Give them whatever they do. Go reach for your wallet or whatever, and then pull out your firearm. Like, that channel teaches you a lot of awesome things, and I definitely urge you guys to go watch it. But all I know is I feel safe and I feel equal on the streets carrying a firearm, because I know I am a law-abiding citizen. And again, I would hate for any new laws or implementations to be put into place where that would make me feel unsafe again. Because I also used to live in a really bad part of Florida. Not really bad, but the crime rate's not good. It was Fort Myers. And if you're from Fort Myers, I used to live around the Metro Park area, not too far from MLK Street. And I used to live in an apartment complex called Westwood Apartments. And while I lived there, I that's where I bought my first firearm, and that first firearm was an AR-15, and I had it on my wall mounted just in case, you know, and it was loaded at all times. And no one had access to my room because it was locked while I was gone, but me. No one had access to it but me. And so one day my roommates were not there, and I heard my door open, and I knew they were in Miami for the weekend and they weren't going to be back. And so I was like, oh no. I was like, this is happening right now. So I get up. I don't have to make any noise because my rifle's already loaded. And I flip up my iron sights, and I'm waiting and I'm listening. I'm by the door. I'm just like, I have my ear to the door. I'm listening. Do I hear any ruckus? Do I hear footsteps? Nothing. I didn't hear anything. I could only assume he's in my friend's room looking at his Xbox and his laptop and all that stuff that's in there, because all of his technology was sprayed out in his room. So that was probably really eye-peeling to him. So I'm listening, and like 2 minutes go by and I don't hear anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to barge out there and I'm going to go full force. So that's what I did. I barged open my door and I ran out to the living room. I got into the far end of the corner, and I was doing a sweep of my house and my apartment, and I didn't see anybody. And then I shouted, I said, come out right now. I said, I know you're here. You know, I said, the best thing for you to do is leave right now. You know, so no one said anything. So I cleared that section of the house, pretty small apartment, so it was really easy. Then I didn't put the muzzle in my roommate's door because I didn't want him to grab that and fight it from me. Because if you have the end of a AR, it's really easy to have leverage on somebody with it. So I definitely backed up, shined my light in there, and I didn't see anybody in the main room, really small room. Opened up the bathroom, didn't see anybody in there, so the house was clear. The door was unlocked, though. So I'm assuming, but I remember locking the door. So I'm assuming maybe someone either picked the lock, maybe someone jimmied it, maybe someone, I don't know, accidentally opened. Maybe I left it unlocked. I can't remember clearly, but maybe I did leave it unlocked. I'm pretty sure I locked it though. And so that could have been a time where I would have used it. And believe it or not, when I went to go get my firearm for the first time, I didn't want an AR. I wanted a pistol because I thought it was easier. I thought it was smaller. I thought I can, you know, easily defend my home with it a little bit easier. But I'm more glad that I had that rifle, because it's just the capacity, and if I needed to use that, if there was multiple people in my house, I could have used it, you know. And that's the one time that I was really thankful, and that really got me hooked on having a firearm at all times. Is just being prepared, not just for you, but for others around you. Because legally, as a firearm concealed carry holder, if you are witnessing a felony in place, such as a woman getting beat by her husband, like viciously beat, or if you're seeing someone getting stabbed, or someone on PCP, bath salts, an officer being assaulted, which has happened in Florida, where officers were assaulted and a concealed carry holder was pulled over on the highway, and the officer told him to shoot the suspect, and the guy was basically given an award for it. So if you see something going down like that, a felony taking place, basically, someone's life's in danger, you can, as a concealed carry holder, put shots on target. And another thing is, you are allowed to also legally brandish your firearm. If you feel like your life is in danger, you are allowed to brandish your firearm to prevent someone from approaching, but you cannot point it at them, because that could be...
Just announce your intent then.
Just say, hey, man, I advise you back up. I advise you stop, get away. Be very aggressive. And you can have your firearm at all times on you, but you can't point it at them. The only time you can... Because if you point it at them, then you could be charged with aggressive... aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And that's prison sentence. That's like 3 years. So there are times when you can use certain situations or certain tactical implementations to get someone to avoid a conflict and avoid you shooting somebody. So if you see someone approaching you, you can pull out a firearm. I mean, I've seen a video on YouTube where a guy was fishing and he had his GoPro lined up. I'll show you after the podcast.
Right.
You guys go look it up. Look up guy pulls gun while fishing. It should come up. What happens is a guy has his GoPro on some rocks, and these guys come up to him and harass him, like, "Hey man, nice shoes." And he's like, "Oh bro, thanks." And then the guys are trying to get the fucking shoes off him. They're trying to rob his shoes. They're trying to rob him. And he's like, "Bro, what size are you, man? Like, man, you should take those shoes off. Give us those shoes." And he's like, "Are you serious right now?" And the guys are like, "Yeah, bro, give us those shoes." The guy pulls out his pistol. And they immediately say, "Oh, no, fuck that, man. You good?" And they leave. A crime was stopped, and no one was shot because of the display of a firearm. There's a lot of things that people can do, man. There's a lot of things people can do, but I need someone to change my opinion, and I don't think it's going to happen on firearms, because there is a lot more lives saved from ARs and pistols. Well, ARs than are taken by ARs in the United States, and that's a fact.
Another thing, stop listening to the news and do some research yourself.
Listen to the news, form your own opinion, look up the facts, and see how wrong the news outlet you are listening to is.
Well, yeah, definitely that.
I love to listen to independent journalists and broadcasters and whatnot, and I listen to BBC, but I always form my own opinion. I take their opinion and I run with it, and I say, let me do my own research, and if from what I find out lines up, then it lines up. If it doesn't, then I call bullshit. Simple as that. But that's all I can say about that.
I mean, again, you took the words out of my mouth, so I agree with pretty much everything you say right now. We kind of stand on the same.
We're on the same a lot of things. We don't really differ too much with a lot of things, but maybe one day we will with something.
Yeah,
but up till now, it's a logical and rational. I'm not being irrational. Maybe to some people I am, but this is a totally rational outlook that I have on this.
Yeah, and we're not bashing.
We have on this,
and we're not trying to bash on anybody who has those like those oppositions against us. But we're just like, this is what we feel like. This is our opinions. We think it's right. Maybe you think it's wrong. It's fine. It's a discussion. It's a debate.
It's wrong if you don't have the training. It's wrong if you don't have the capacity and the know-how. It's wrong if you do not have the experience.
Yes, exactly, definitely.
And it's wrong if you don't have a lot of things. But more than enough times, people that have these licenses and firearms know damn well how to use them. And that's all I got to say about that. So it was a great talk, and this is gonna be the last time you hear for us for about 2 weeks. And we're going to be pre-recording some episodes. So this one's been a little bit longer than the other episodes. We're about an hour and 5 minutes in. So, you guys take this episode out. Definitely leave comments and let us know what your opinions are and what you think our outlooks are on these policies and whatnot. and just leave everything. Leave all your info.
Yeah,
and
and
opinions.
once again, give us a shout out.
Most definitely, yeah. Follow us on all social media platforms again at Bear Mind Trip on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatnot. Like I said, we're gonna be moving here pretty soon to a new spot. So whenever we do that, we're gonna start doing videos and putting videos on YouTube, so you can actually watch the podcast, and you can see kind of how the place looks and whatnot. So we're going to try to get that done probably in the next couple of months here. So you guys have a really good one. Take it easy, and we look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts on the topic. So
Yep. Bye.
you guys have a good one. Signing out here.